a busy 11-game NBA slate tonight with plenty to discuss there. And we'll take a look at the college landscape, both on the hardwood and the gridiron in action tonight. And to help us preview all of these games, we have sports analytics expert Edward Egros joining us from Dallas. You can check out his podcast called Hazard Play. New episodes released every Thursday on iTunes and the Vocal app. Ed, so you're going to be doing that later on tonight, I guess?
We'll do it tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, rather, on Thursday.
Okay.
But we'll have a little bit of fun there, finding games that maybe fly under the radar as far as where you can find some value.
I have one of those later on in the show as my best bet, so stay tuned for that. And remember to download the free FanDuel Sportsbook app right now, where you can see all of the lines that we're talking about on this show and place your bets in real time on the app. Sign up for your account using the promo code MOREWAYS25, and you get a risk-free bet up to $500 in site credit, plus an additional $25 free bet. All right, let's get right into our Thursday night football contest between the Colts and Texans. The Colts beat the Jags 33-13 last week. Don't remind me about that. I love the Jaguars. Colts ran for 264 yards and only gave up 29. The Texans didn't fare as well in Baltimore. They got sacked 7 times by the Ravens in a 41-7 loss. So, Mark, if Houston wants to make any kind of run this year, they're going to have to fix that offensive line that ranks 24th in the NFL in pass protection. The Colts are getting 3.5 points in Houston. Who do you like in this matchup?
Great matchup of 2 6-4 teams to go on a Thursday night here in this one. But I like Houston to bounce back in this scenario. And the reason is yes, the disappointment of what happened against Baltimore completely got outplayed in all facets of the game. You combine that with the fact that Indianapolis has been a dinged-up team on offense. I know they just got Jacoby Brissett back, but the fact of the matter is now they lose Marlon Mack with the hand injury.
Huge.
And that is a big piece of the running game and also of the screen game. It was a win 4 weeks ago for Indianapolis in Indy. I see this as a classic split between these two teams where now Houston comes back and they get a little bit of payback.
Well, Ed, it just seems like Indy has Deshaun Watson's number. He's struggled to really do much against them in his career. And going to Houston, the Colts are 6-0-1 against the spread in their last 7 games in Houston. So do you see this trend continuing, or are you on Mark's side saying that it's going to flip-flop this time around?
I'm going with Rogo and the stash here. I think one of the concerns that I think a lot of people may have concerning this game is recency bias. I think Houston is still the better football team here. Last week's blowout loss for the Texans against the Ravens was in large part because Lamar Jackson could really do whatever he wanted. And even though Houston ranks 8th in run success rate defense, still didn't matter against Lamar Jackson. Texans also faced defensive linemen they weren't prepared for in Baltimore. Watson and company couldn't run. And even when they did, Hopkins didn't get that PI call he normally would. He also had a couple of drops, which is very much uncharacteristic for the best receiver in football. Baltimore was the better team, but that's recency bias if you read too much into that game. Houston is not nearly as bad as they looked last week. Too many injuries, too many concerns for Indianapolis. I think Houston covers here.
All right, let's talk about the total in this game. It's sitting at 44.5. Do you think this will be a slow tempo, or do you think we might see a lot of points in this one, Ed?
Well, Texans' offensive line cannot protect if Watson keeps holding on to the ball as long as he did last week, almost reverting to old-school Deshaun Watson, one of the reasons why he had such a high sack rate. Consider those coverage sacks by Baltimore. Colts' pass defense success rate is actually better, 6th versus 10th. As for Indy, without too many weapons, they may run more, but even then, the personnel just may not necessarily be there to sort of be as effective in the ground game as Indy would like for it to be. So I'm going to go with under. I don't see Houston doing a heck of a lot. I really don't see Indy doing very much with so many guys banged up.
All right, so Mark, you like the Texans. So are you thinking 33-23, or are you thinking 21-10?
Myself and the stash are also with Ed on this pick. I'm glad Ed and I agree across the board on this one. I'm going under as well. For the Texans, 6 of their 9 games recently, over the last 9 games, have gone under. I think the fact of the matter is when you take out Marlon Mack, it's questionable whether or not game time decision, whether or not we see T.Y. Hilton. Zach Pascal has not done a ton in the passing game since his breakout game against Houston 4 weeks ago. I think Indy struggles to get to 20 points in this game, so I see more like like a 27-17, 24-17 game. That puts you right around the number, but with that half point, I'd go under.
I would love 27-17 and win by the hook. There's nothing better than that. There are also a ton of fun prop bets for this game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. So let's talk about some of the more popular ones that are listed there right now. Ed, we're going to start with you. The first half spread, the Colts are getting 2.5. The Colts are plus 110. Houston is minus 130. How do you see this first half playing out?
Where Colts are better overall at scripted plays in terms of EPA, so I won't be surprised if the Colts score first with, say, a field goal. But I'm not expecting much offense really from either team. Indy could jump ahead first, so I will take the Colts because they have points.
Mark, total touchdowns for this one is set at 5. So how many times are these teams going to hit pay dirt? Under or over 5?
I already told you guys I'm on the under on this game, so I think you got to go under that 5 number. No question. Maybe a touchdown and a couple of field goals for Indy. And I see, obviously, Houston getting into the end zone a couple more times, but under 5 total touchdowns.
All right, Ed, back to you. You gave us your take on the first half spread. Now give us your take on the first half total, which is 23 points. Over or under?
I'm taking the under here. No reason to believe this game will have a hot start. I think both defenses will be playing consistently throughout the game. Give me the under.
All right, Mark, we'll finish up with you on this one. Which team will score first? Any points on the board? The Colts are plus 116. Houston is minus 140. Who gets on the board first?
Due to what happened to Houston last week against Baltimore, this is where the Texans are going to bounce back. They get the ball first. They're playing at home, march down the field, and put up 7 with an opening drive.
All right, we've got more football game previews coming up in about 15 minutes. And we'll take a look at the biggest matchups of the weekend and give you our game picks on those. You can check out the lines for those games and more on the free FanDuel Sportsbook app and even get free money to make your first bet. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, sign up for an account using the promo code MOREWAYS25. You'll get a risk-free bet up to $500, in-site credit, and an additional $25 free bet you can use however you would like. So make sure to sign up for a FanDuel account using the promo code MOREWAYS25 and take advantage of this awesome promotion. And on top of making bets on the free FanDuel Sportsbook app, you can also play daily fantasy and win cash. Just log on to FanDuel.com and check out the fantasy games available for the Colts-Texans matchup on Thursday. Just set your lineup and you got a shot to win. It's as easy as that. And we're going to give you the inside information right now because joining me is fantasy expert Jim Sanas, and he's done the research so you don't have to. Jim's going to give us a player from each salary tier that we should get into our lineup. So, Jim, who is on that list this week?
Yeah, I think it really does start with Deshaun Watson. He had a pretty rough week last week, obviously, but overall this year, he has still been outstanding. He ranks 9th in expected points added per dropback this year, despite that brutal game last weekend. That doesn't even include what he adds as a rusher. So far this year, Deshaun has averaged 5.5 rushes for 29.1 yards per game, and that gives him a good floor for fantasy, and the talent that he has himself and around him gives him a high ceiling too. So I like Deshaun Watson. I also want to pair him with DeAndre Hopkins, and I think that this makes sense even if Will Fuller does come back this week. If Fuller misses, Hopkins I think is a lock because he's had at least 11 targets in each game since Will Fuller got hurt. In the games where both Will Fuller and Kenny Stills have played, Hopkins still has 32% of the team's targets, which is great for his floor. He got a lot of red zone work and a lot of deep work, so DeAndre Hopkins paired with Deshaun Watson I think makes a lot of sense. On the Colts side, we don't really know what the backfield will look like here with Jonathan Williams and Jordan Wilkins likely both being active, but I think no matter what, Nyheim Hines is going to get some volume here because he was getting volume even before Marlon Mack got hurt. He has 15% of the team's targets this year in games that T.Y. Hilton has missed, which gives him a good floor, and we could always see that role expand with the absence of Marlon Mack. The Colts are road underdogs, which increases the odds that their passing game back will be on the field, so Hines at 10,000, a pretty good value play. As is Zach Pascal. We don't really know what the status of T.Y. Hilton is going to be because we're recording this on Wednesday, but he hasn't practiced yet. So I would assume that T.Y. Hilton will not go, and that opens up a lot of volume for Zach Pascal. If we look at the games that Hilton has missed, Pascal leads the team with 19% of the targets. He has gotten plenty of deep work, 35% of the team's targets, at least 16 yards downfield. So at $9,000, Pascal would be an option if T.Y. Hilton were to play, but I think that he becomes a really good option if Hilton once again misses.
I know there are people watching right now like me going, well, I want more than a minute or two from Jim every week. Can I get him anywhere else other than More Ways to Win? Yes, you can. You can get more of Jim's information on his podcast. It's called The Heat Check podcast. And Jim puts that out, I believe, is it Monday and Thursdays that you're going to hit those?
Yeah, Monday's a recap podcast, and Thursday is a preview podcast, so twice a week. Thank you.
All right, good stuff, Jim. Check him out on the Heat Check podcast, and we'll talk to you next week here on More Ways to Win. Maybe even later in the week. Thanks, Jim. All right, let's move along here. Jim's always a big help, but and he does basketball too. If you didn't know that, he does do some NBA. We're going to talk NBA right now. Some good matchups on the schedule tonight. We mentioned earlier 11 games that we'll be covering. Most of those, anyways. We'll talk about the more popular ones that people are betting on. So let's start in Philadelphia, where the Knicks will take that 90-mile trip south down I-95 to take on the Sixers. The Knicks started the season winning 2 of their first 11 games, but guess what? They've now won 2 out of their last 3. The Sixers are just 4-5 on the road, but 4-0 at home. So, Mark, Philly's a 12.5-point favorite. Is that too big, or can they cover that 12.5 points?
That's right about the number where you see this one finishing. That's why the odds makers are so good at this. I love the opportunity here, though, for Philadelphia to bounce back. They have played 9 of their opening 13 games on the road. They're finally back home. They're going to have a long homestand coming up over the next month or so. I think Philadelphia is the much better team. And right now, New York, although they've won a couple of games, Dave, the thing is they're more worried about is David Fizdale going to be their head coach tomorrow. So I like Philadelphia here in this situation.
And Julius Randle has been big for the Knicks so far in the games that I've seen him play. But what do you think? Is the 12.5 points enough for New York to stay close to Philly, Ed?
I'm going with Philadelphia here. I'm going with the stash, so much so that I may need to grow one if it's possible in the last couple of weeks. Knicks ranked 3rd from the bottom in offensive rating. Mitchell Robinson might be the only reliable offensive threat for New York. But I don't want to call him injury prone, but I think his health makes him a little bit unreliable. Not to mention the Sixers do have bigs who can defend him. Philly has an extra day of rest since their last game than New York. Also number 1 in defensive rebounding percentage in the NBA. Give me the Sixers.
All right, let's talk about the other New York team. In Brooklyn, the Nets look to get their season back on track against Charlotte after losing 4 of their last 5 games. But Kyrie Irving will miss his 3rd straight with a shoulder injury. The Hornets are coming off of a 36-point loss in Toronto, ouch, where they were outscored 72-40 in the second half alone. Mark, the Nets are a 4-point favorite here at home. Who do you like?
Make sure we mark this tape because you're not going to hear this very often during the course of the NBA season. The Hornets are a live dog in this one, getting the 4 points. You might want to even go after the money line at plus 148. I say that because Malik Monk has been on a tear, recently hitting a game-winning 3 over the course of the weekend. And right now the Nets are a mess. The injury to Kyrie Irving isn't the only thing. Karis LeVert, their other scorer who comes off the bench, he is also out of action. So it's a Nets team that is dinged up a little bit here. And after getting banged up in that big loss for Charlotte, I think this is an opportunity for them to turn it around and win inside Barclays Center.
Ed, you are allowed to pick another team besides Mark's team. What are you going to finally go against him here, or keep agreeing? We got the rest of the show that you can battle him if you want.
Oh, there'll be plenty of that.
No doubt in my mind, but Rogo clearly has hacked into my computer, all of my notes, all of my data and modeling, because I'm going with the Hornets here. I am expecting an even game. Hornets, Nets, roughly the same in assist to turnover ratio. Most offensive factors, they're roughly the same. Hornets might be a tad more disciplined, preventing opponents from going to the line as much. So when it's close, I want points. Hornets are giving me points. Give me the Hornets.
All right, let's move on. We're going to go to Dallas. Have you heard of this guy named Luka? He's pretty good. He's coming off of a 42-point game. That's a career high. He's been in the 30s plenty already. He's also had 11 rebounds and 12 assists. That's what's known as a triple-double. He'll take on a Warriors team that is without its star guard. D'Angelo Russell will miss his 3rd game with a thumb injury. They're just so banged up, Mark. The Warriors are heading in their 2nd back-to-back on the road. I mean, this has been a brutal stretch for the Warriors. They actually won last night.
They did.
Somewhat surprisingly. Now up to a 14-point underdog here against the Mavericks. Oh. What do you think? I mean, that's a big number.
That is a really big number. And as you mentioned, it's a back-to-back situation. They did get a win against the Memphis Grizzlies, a game that they were a 6-point underdog and easily won by double digits outright in that game. But back-to-backs in the NBA are oh so tough. You think about the team for the Warriors getting in very late last night to Dallas after the game, and then an opportunity to just turn right around and have to play a very good team in Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, and this Dallas Mavericks. although it's high here, I will lean toward the Dallas Mavericks, but this is a classic case scenario where you put them on a teaser.
Ed's got his season tickets ready to roll here tonight, heading over to the game. I'm sure. Get your popcorn ready. Ed, 14 points. That is a big spread in this modern day of NBA basketball. That's a lot of points.
It is a lot of points, and this spread has gotten bigger since yesterday. But Luka Doncic, he should be in the MVP conversation right now. Now the Mavericks have not done a heck of a lot in terms of load management. I wouldn't be surprised if, say, starting midway through the season, we don't see as much Luka, or they have him play fewer minutes, perhaps in games like this. But the reinforcements, including guys like Dwight Powell, the Mavericks are going to be just fine offensively. Also, the Golden State Warriors, they may have the worst defensive rating in all of basketball. And yeah, it's gotten a little bit better over these last couple of games. But without D'Angelo Russell, who's going to be scoring for the Warriors? That's a big concern for me. Even when the Dubs were in the midst of their dynasty, Rick Carlisle did very well against the Warriors. So I think the Mavericks can cover this large spread.
All right, minus 14. Both of them liking the home team there. Now to the marquee matchup of the night between the Eastern Conference leading Celtics and the new-look Clippers. The Clippers welcomed Paul George back to their starting lineup last Thursday, and he's done nothing but produce since his return, averaging 35 points and only 22 minutes per night. So his minutes might increase here as we go on. The Celtics have struggled out west, loser of 6 of their last 7 in L.A. So, Mark, the Clippers are 5.5-point home favorites here against the Celtics. Who do you like?
I like the Clippers. I think they're rolling. They don't have the better record, and we know that the Celtics were humbled a little bit the other night in Sacramento, a 100-99 loss. They bounced back a night later and did win against the Phoenix Suns. But this is a tough road trip swinging through the West for the Boston Celtics. And so I see an opportunity here. Of course, this all depends on what the Kawhi Leonard status will be. We don't know sometimes if he's going to be in or if he's going to be out. But the fact that Doc Rivers has been so good against his former team, I think you have to go with the Clippers here in this situation.
Well, Ed, let me just give you the number that Mark's referring to there. Doc Rivers is 9-3 against the Celtics since taking over in L.A. How do you see this one playing out?
It's going to be 10-3, Dave. I love the Clippers in this situation. Slightly better in effective field goal percentage. Not to mention last year, Paul George was #1 in real plus minus. Better than James Harden, better than anybody. Now he's back and he's getting healthier. Give me the Clip.
All right, from the association to the institutions. The college basketball schedule features 2 top 5 teams in action tonight. First, we've got South Carolina Upstate. Who? South Carolina Upstate. At number 2 ranked, Louisville. Louisville moved up 2 spots in the latest AP poll and are just one of 4 ACC schools currently in the top 25. The Cardinals are a 36-point favorite in this game. Mark, which side are you taking? 36 points.
Well, both of the college games we're going to talk about here are situations I don't love to go after, and that's because you have a small, unranked school taking on one of the big dogs in the NCAA, and that's the case right here. So I don't love going on the side here. I think you have to look at the over-under, and we'll talk about the other game in a moment, but I think you look under in this situation because both teams are going to try and grind it out for these smaller schools trying to compete with the big dogs.
I had to Google, is there any player that came out of South Carolina Upstate in the NBA? Torrey Craig would fit that bill, Ed. Torrey Craig, Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
What do you think in this spot, Ed?
Well, Rogo, these are the games that we go over on our podcast, Hazard Play. This is why you need to listen so that you can hear about all these blowout games here. But as for this one, Louisville ranks number 2 in Ken Pom rankings. South Carolina Upstate, 346. 346 out of 353 teams. They've been blown out nearly every game except twice, and one time they weren't was against a previous team Louisville faced where they beat them by 29. Love those games where there's no money line available. I think Louisville covers.
So you're saying I got a chance.
And there's a chance. All right, our other top 5 team in action is number 5, North Carolina, hosting Elon. This Tar Heel State matchup is just the 3rd meeting all time between the programs, with UNC, of course, winning the previous 2, but by an average of 43.5 points. The line for this one is set at just 31.5. So, Ed, who do you got?
Elon's got a rich history. I know it's a big spread here. I know North Carolina's a very, very talented team. I think Elon can get it done here. I think they can cover this 30.5.
What about you, Mark?
Again, I go to the total here in this one. 77 points a game is the average for UNC so far this season. I see them getting to about 85. The total's around 146, 147. Play the under in this game.
All right, those are the college basketball games, but now let's talk some football. Wednesday night action is back. 2 nationally televised games in that MAC conference, and we've got you covered. Ed, let's start with our cross-division MAC showdown, talking about Toledo at Buffalo. Both teams sitting at 3-3 on the year and are coming off of 3-point losses. Buffalo is an 8.5-point home favorite in this one. What do you think?
Well, Buffalo has a significant advantage in overall offensive efficiency, but when you look at yards per pass attempt, Toledo has the advantage here. Rockets also lead in traditional rushing offense and did outgain Northern Illinois last week in a loss. Buffalo has a good run defense, but if Toledo can complete a few throws with backup quarterback Eli Peters, they're going to be just fine. Something closing drives for Toledo. It was a bit of a problem, but sometimes that's more just being unlucky than anything else. I think Toledo can cover this big spread.
All right, and our other matchup features 2 interstate rivals as Akron visits Miami of Ohio. The Redhawks clinched a spot in the MAC championship last week, beating Bowling Green 44-3, and have now won 7 straight games at home, dating back to last season. Akron's 0-10 this year and looking to get first-year head coach Tom Arth his first win. Miami of Ohio is a big 31-point favorite tonight, Mark, against the Zips.
You pretty much laid it all out right there. 0-10 Akron in this one. There's a possibility they might not even score in this game. They've been shut out in 2 of their last 4 games, and it doesn't look very promising for them in this matchup here tonight. You know the Redhawks like to run the ball. They average almost 200 yards per game on the ground. I think they continue to run the ball in this game on their way to another win. The clock continues to run. Take the Redhawks in this one, but even further, take the under again in this game.
All right, thank you guys. Plenty more to come on FanDuel's More Ways to Win. We're breaking down the biggest Week 12 NFL games, including the Seahawks traveling east to take on the Eagles. Plus, there's some great college football matchup this weekend as well. We're giving out our best bets later on in the show. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes here on More Ways to Win.
Do you want to bet the next race and don't have a TVG account? Get the TVG mobile app and sign up. It's fun, easy, and it's TVG. I'll show you how it works. When you bet the horse that wins, you win money too. With the TVG app, select your horse, bet type, and wager amount. Place your bet and watch the race live. Download the app and sign up now, or go to TVG.com. Join now and get a risk-free bet up to $200. TVG, your best bet.
Sometimes a trip to the casino is not in the cards.
You have gas, there's tolls, there's traffic, there's parking. And what is a resort fee? I think everybody wants to know what a resort fee is. I'd rather just stay and play at home.
With Betfair Casino, you can play anywhere in New Jersey. No long drives, no hassle.
You just can't beat the convenience.
I've downloaded the app. It's fun. It's quick. I can play anywhere in New Jersey.
Playing on Betfair Casino, I save on tolls, I save on time. It's great.
With over 400 casino games, you could be playing your favorite games in 3 simple steps. Step 1. Sign up at betfaircasino.com and get $10 free for joining. Step 2. Make your first deposit and we'll match it up to $2,500. Step 3. Join the thousands in New Jersey playing for real money online.
It doesn't matter, how much we're betting. It's just the excitement of it. The adrenaline starts to flow.
Join the fun today at betfaircasino.com. Try it free.
Right here. Oh.
Can you do that here?
Of course. Now I can bet the game on FanDuel Sportsbook anywhere in Pennsylvania. But is a pig allowed? You mean my service hog? As long as I rent her shoes.
FanDuel Sportsbook is now available everywhere in Pennsylvania. Join today and get a risk-free bet worth up to $500. Visit FanDuelSportsbook.com. FanDuel Sportsbook, more ways to win.
Here is a look into the FanDuel Sportsbook at the Meadowlands. If you live in New Jersey or just visiting the area, make sure to check out the FanDuel Sportsbook, where you could take advantage of self-betting machines while enjoying watching the games on hundreds of TVs. Plus, there are shuttles that are running back and forth between MetLife Stadium and the FanDuel Sportsbook on game days. So that's a great time to check it out as well. All right, now let's take a look at some more NFL matchups on this coming up Sunday. It's been a tough year for both the Giants and the Bears, as neither team has lived up to expectations. The Giants, 2-8 on the year, are looking for their first win since September. Yes, September. The Bears are coming off a Sunday night loss against the Rams. Did not throw for at least 200 yards now for the third straight game. Mark, the Giants are getting 6.5 points, with total here being at 40.5. How can anybody lay 6.5 points with the Bears right now? Can you do it?
I actually can do it.
You can?
I can do it. I can put money on Chicago here. And you know, I always talk about, Dave, I like to buy it down and buy that hook. I just am not comfortable when you're talking about 6 as versus 6.5 points. So you buy it down to 6 points in this one. And I'll tell you why, because I think finally Matt Nagy is going to figure it out. He's going to run a ton of David Montgomery. Then you get Tariq Cohen involved in the screen game. If you look at what Trubisky did in the game against the Rams, he actually wasn't that bad. He had a lot of drops. He had a lot of drops from his receivers, and that's part of the reason they could not sustain drives. Last thing, rookie quarterback in Daniel Jones going to Chicago, where it's going to be in the mid-40s against a very good defense. That is why I'm on Chicago for this game.
I mean, Ed, is Trubisky even going to get his opportunity in here, or is the end of the Trubisky era coming to a close?
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far because I think Chicago really does love Trubisky for what he did last year. But at this point, I'm not sure it matters who's playing quarterback for Chicago right now. Still, though, with all of that being said, one of the reasons why the Bears lost to the Rams last week is because the Rams utilized play action. Finally, the Giants do not use play action very much with Daniel Jones. Chicago's front with Khalil Mack will get after Danny Dimes more than they did Jared Goff this past Sunday. And did you know that even though the Giants have Saquon Barkley, they only rank 16th out of 32 teams in run success rate? As for the Bears offense, line should offer enough protection both for running and passing. I think the Bears can cover in a low-scoring affair.
All right, next we have the Seahawks taking on the Eagles at the Link in Philly. Russell Wilson is proving he is a legitimate MVP candidate. He's the current favorite. He's got a passer rating of 114.9, 23 touchdowns, and here's the key, Mark, only 2 interceptions all year, all best in the NFL. But he'll face an Eagles defense that plays much better at home, giving up just 192 yards passing a game at home. Mark, Seattle's a 2-point road dog in this one. What do you think? Seahawks or Eagles?
For me, Dave, this is one of the toughest games to handicap on this Sunday Week 12 schedule, and I say that because both teams are not very good defensively, but they also can be beaten with the pass game. So I look at it right here. I like Seattle in this situation, but something keeps telling me that Philadelphia is going to bounce back. I'm waiting for Carson Wentz to have a 300-yard passing game, and I think it comes here in this one. And I say that because both teams are going to go back and forth in this one. Seattle has gone over in 9 of their last 12 games coming off of a bye, which they are doing here in this situation. So I lean actually here for the Eagles, but look at the total and go over here in this one.
You just sold me on that over 48 with everything you had to say there. All right,
that's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's why you're here, helping us out. Now to a matchup that if you looked at it at the beginning of the year, it might not look so appealing, but fast forward to today, and you have an Oakland team that's just a half a game out of first in the AFC West, and a Jets team that's now won 2 straight. In fact, both teams are combined 5-1 in the month of November. Mark, the Raiders are giving 3 points on the road at MetLife. So if you're going to the Meadowlands, are you wearing Raider gear or are you wearing Jets gear?
Well, this number opened up a little bit bigger in favor of the Raiders, and sharp money dropped all over the Jets in this one, which has brought it down from 4.5 to now 3 here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. I think the Jets are going to get it going. They're one of the top teams when it comes to run defense. And what do the Raiders like to do, Dave? They like to run the ball to set everything else up offensively. Traveling West Coast to East Coast, never a good thing for those West Coast teams to start with an early start time. I will take the Jets getting points at home.
This is the 3rd week in a row, Ed, that the Jets have been right around a field goal or slightly less than a field goal underdog, and they won. They beat the Giants. They beat the Redskins. Can they do it again here against the Raiders?
I'm going to take this one step further. I think the Jets outright beat the Oakland Raiders. And, Rogo, you mentioned it. West Coast team traveling out to the East Coast for a 1 o'clock Eastern time kickoff. That's important here. Sam Darnold, yes, he's been inconsistent for New York, but against Washington last week, his total QBR ranked 10th in football. And then the week prior against the Giants, it was 8th. So now he's facing an Oakland defense that's 23rd in pass defense success rate. I think the Jets can get it done.
Can the Raiders overcome the temptation of hanging out at the FanDuel Sportsbook until the wee hours of the morning on Saturday night when they have a game the next morning? We shall see. And our last matchup is one of the best games of the year so far in a battle between New England's #1 ranked defense and the Cowboys' #1 ranked passing offense. Ed, you know all about that. The Patriots are 7-3 against the spread this season, which is best among all 32 teams in the league. Dallas is getting 6.5 points. Mark, do you see New England covering another spread? Because are you going to come with your ABB reference?
Well, I've already told you that many times. Always bet Brady, always bet Belichick. So I'll just throw 2 sets of numbers at you why New England will cover this number. Okay. First is Dallas 0-6 against the number against winning teams this season. That doesn't bode well for the Cowboys. The other one is when New England is at home and giving up less than a touchdown, which they are here at 6.5 in this one, they're 14-3-3 in their last 20. They will take care of it. Disappointing performance, even in a win against Philadelphia. They won't have those problems against Dallas.
All right, Ed, you've been campaigning for Dak for MVP, Dak for MVP. If that has any chance going forward, he would need to beat Tom Brady and have a huge game here. Can he do that, and can the Cowboys cover?
Well, Rogo, we were getting along so well for so long, and now the friendship has come to an end right here, right now. Dak Prescott still atop the list in completion percentage over expected plus EPA per play metric. I still believe he belongs in that MVP conversation. Tom Brady, he is not playing like a top 10 quarterback right now. While his defense can be a little bit more volatile than we give it credit for, I trust that, on the one hand, Bill Belichick will try and force Dak to throw outside of the numbers where the defense is absolutely elite. So I think this is going to be a game where Randall Cobb for the Cowboys, slot receiver going down the middle of the field, he's going to be absolutely critical. And I trust Randall Cobb in these situations. So I'm not comfortable saying Cowboys are going to win, but at 6.5, I think they can cover though.
All right, you are on record. And remember, as you make your bets, you have to keep in mind some of the players who are dealing with an injury. And joining us now is Dr. David Chow. He's the former head doctor for the Chargers, so he's in a very unique position to talk about some of the injuries that we've seen this season. You can follow him on Twitter. His handle is @ProFootballDoc. Doc, thanks for joining us. Let's start with tomorrow's Colts-Texans matchup. Boy, have the Colts been banged up. But let's specifically start with Indy's star wideout, T.Y. Hilton. He's missed the last 3 games now with a calf injury. He's questionable for tomorrow. A, do you think he will suit up? And B, if he does, what kind of impact should we expect him to have on the field?
There's a lot of players banged up on both sides of the ball. But talking about the Colts first, it's not just T.Y. Hilton, who I do not believe will play. It's a short turnaround from Sunday. Calf injuries can reoccur. And yes, this is a huge matchup for first place in the AFC South, but they have 2 more AFC South games coming next. They can't afford to play him and have it aggravated. He has not practiced. Calf injuries linger. I do not expect him to play, even though T.Y. Hilton has surprised us somewhat in the past. But also, their next 2 wide receivers are still down. Devin Funchess still on injury reserve with the clavicle, and Paris Campbell with the metacarpal fracture, recent surgery. Even though he's limited practice running routes, I don't think he's ready to catch balls. And Eric Ebron is a question mark, too, not to mention Marlon Mack at running back for the Colts.
Well, now to another banged-up wide receiver in this matchup. Let's talk about Will Fuller. He's also missed the last 3 games for the Texans with a hamstring injury, but he says he's feeling good, although head coach Bill O'Brien is calling him a game-time decision. How do you think the Texans should handle this situation?
Well, I think Will Fuller's getting close. He's been out a few weeks with a hamstring, but you really have to be careful, especially with speedy wide receivers that are hamstring dependent. And so I think Bill O'Brien knows which way it's going to go. He's just not going to tell us. I think he's still iffy. There's no guarantee that he will play. But the bigger injuries for the Texans are they potentially won't have 5 defensive backs, 2 safeties on concussions, Bradley Roby with the hamstring, and Lonnie Johnson Jr. with the ankle/foot. and Tayshaun Gibson also questionable. So that's an area to watch. The Texans' secondary is pretty banged up, but at least they're going against a receiving core for the Colts that are also injured.
All right, if you've been watching these 49er games, you've seen that star tight end, George Kittle, up behind the glass, up in the luxury boxes. We want to see him on the field. He's missed back-to-back games now with what San Francisco is calling a knee and ankle injury. What will the doctors be looking for here before clearing him and returning him to action?
Well, my theory all along is that hyperextension injury that happened on Halloween was a bone bruise, and that they have to be careful of so it doesn't get worse. So the doctors are going to be monitoring him clinically, and he hasn't even practiced yet. Everyone keeps thinking he's about to play because the 49ers put out it was minor issues from the MRI. I'm worried it's a bone bruise. Look, he hasn't even practiced yet. Let's wait for him to practice before we talk about is he or is he not playing this week. Often bone bruises are 4 weeks absence, and this is the 3rd week here, so we'll have to see how he does.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chow. Dr. Chow has a bunch of great information at profootballdoc.com. Make sure to check it out there. And remember also to follow him on Twitter for more injury information, where his handle is at profootballdoc. Talk to you later in the week. Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
All right, guys, you heard what Dr. Chow said about this Thursday night game, including T.Y. Hilton and Will Fuller. So does any of that information that you just heard impact the way that you're now going to be betting this game? Mark, we'll start with you.
Certainly it does impact the way you see this game, the way you see the game script. And I say that because if T.Y. Hilton can't go, that's a much bigger hit than, say, if Will Fuller can't go for the Texans. We know that DeAndre Hopkins, he's the alpha dog receiver for Houston, but T.Y. Hilton, he is their primary receiver when he is out on the field. You add in the fact that the doctor just told us about Eric Ebron being questionable for the game. So a lot of weapons missing for the Colts in this one, which makes it all the more I like Houston and the number.
Ed, does this change anything for you?
Well, the Will Fuller status, I think, is certainly interesting. Maybe more from a DFS perspective, like Jim was talking about earlier. How important will DeAndre Hopkins be? How important will Kenny Stills be? But in terms of the overall makeup of the game, I still think Houston is covering this in a more of a low-scoring affair. Also, too, when you're talking about defensive backs, I think wide receivers tend to have the advantage there because they tend to know and expect where the football is going to go. So despite, whatever, each secondary may have or not have, I'm still pretty much expecting a low-scoring affair here.
All right, take all of that football information and make a bet on the free FanDuel Sportsbook app, and we'll even give you a free $25 to place your first bet. Here's how you get the cash. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, sign up for an account using the promo code MOREWAYS25, and you'll get a risk-free bet up to $500 insight credit, and on top of that, an additional $25 free bet. So make sure to sign up for a FanDuel account using the promo code MOREWAYS25. All right, let's get back to college football now. The big one this week is in the Big Ten. Number 8, Penn State, and number 2, Ohio State. Wow, this is a good game. We're going to get into that in just 1 second. But let's start first with the 14th ranked Baylor hosting the Texas Longhorns. Both teams are coming off of just heartbreaking losses, with Texas losing on a last-second field goal and Baylor blowing a huge lead, and no longer are they undefeated. They were up 28-3 and lost. Mark, Texas has won 4 straight in this series, but Baylor is now 9-1 and desperately needs a win here to get into that Big 12 championship. The Bears are a 5.5-point home favorite. What are your thoughts on this one, Mark?
I love the Bears to bounce back here in this one. You mentioned them blowing that 25-point lead and losing to Oklahoma. Oklahoma, a much better offense than what you're going to see out of the Texas Longhorns. So I think this is where Baylor uses the motivation of an opportunity not only to win this game and obviously cover, but to get back into that Big 12 championship and get an opportunity at payback against the Oklahoma Sooners. They're at home, McLean Stadium. It is going to be rocking down there. Obviously, it's an interstate affair here between these two teams. I think there's no problem for Baylor here to cover this number. They're 5-2 in covering the spread in their last 7.
Well, on to the SEC we go with 4th-ranked Georgia hosting Texas A&M. A&M enters this game averaging nearly 265 yards rushing over the past 3 games, while the Georgia defense have given up 155 total in their past 3 games. So, Ed, both teams have won 4 in a row, yet the Aggies aren't getting much love here as they are a 13-point underdog. Which side are you leaning?
in yards per pass attempt. A&M ranks 88th. It has not gotten better for either team throughout the duration of the season. So I'm expecting something ugly where both teams may run the ball a good bit more. You mentioned the proficiency in that area. Bulldogs will have the advantage as far as the ground game is concerned. Defensively, they both seem to shine when it comes to preventing explosive plays. So I think a 13-point line is just simply too big for the kind of game we're going to witness, a grind them out kind of showdown. I'm taking the Aggies to cover, but not win.
All right, and now to that aforementioned Big Ten matchup between 8th-ranked Penn State and 2nd-ranked Ohio State at the Horseshoe. Ohio State's offense leads the nation in scoring, while their defense gives up the second fewest points per game. It's a pretty tough combination right there. And they will see the return of star defensive lineman Chase Young. Penn State's defense is also stingy, though, giving up the 7th fewest points in the country. The Nittany Lions are getting 18.5 points, guys. Yes, Ohio State has been awesome, right? But that is a ton of points to give to a top 10 team. Mark, let's start with you.
Had it been 2 weeks ago, I would say you would definitely take the Nittany Lions in this opportunity. It would be way too much points, even for mighty Ohio State to cover. But the way that they look, Penn State against Indiana in just squeaking by with winning by a touchdown, then, of course, their loss against Minnesota, both those games in the past 2 weeks, I just don't think Penn State is in the right frame of mind here in this one. Plus, they are facing a very dynamic Buckeyes offense. Yes, they didn't cover against Rutgers last week, but they also rested most of their starters in the second half. Those guys will be fresh. Ohio State will be rocking. They can cover this number.
Ed, Ohio State has won 7 of the past 8 matchups between these two teams, but the last 3 have been decided by exactly 5 points. So how do you see this game unfolding?
It's amazing to think that Ohio State has had some incredible offensive talent over these last few years. But this is the year when it is all coming together. They're blowing out pretty much anybody and everybody. Look, Ohio State is the #1 team in America. I know they're 2 in the rankings right now, but to me, in terms of EPA offense and defense, no one has been more consistent than the Buckeyes. There's not a single game where Ohio State has scored fewer than 34 points. LSU can't say that. Alabama has questions with its backup quarterback now. And for Penn State, defensively, they're solid, but offensively, they have not been that efficient as of late. I love the Buckeyes here.
Well, you can bet them to win the national championship as well. Whether you like future bets, game bets, prop bets, it's all available on the free FanDuel Sportsbook app, and we'll even give you a free $25 to place your first bet. Here's how to get the cash. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, sign up for an account, use the promo code MOREWAYS25. You'll get a risk-free bet up to $500 in site credit and an additional $25 free bet. So make sure to sign up for a FanDuel account using the promo code MOREWAYS25. Plenty more to come on FanDuel's More Ways to Win. We're recapping our picks for the Thursday night game between the Colts and the Texans. And stay with us because our best bets of the day, we'll reveal those when we come back. Stay right there.
Woo! Right here. Oh.
Can you do that here?
Of course. Now I can bet the game on FanDuel Sportsbook anywhere in Pennsylvania. But is a pig allowed? You mean my service hog? As long as they rent her shoes.
FanDuel Sportsbook is now available everywhere in Pennsylvania. Join today and get a risk-free bet worth up to $500. Visit FanDuelSportsbook.com. FanDuel Sportsbook, more ways to win.
Sometimes a trip to the casino is not in the cards.
You have gas, there's tolls, there's traffic, there's parking. And what is a resort fee? I think everybody wants to know what a resort fee is. I'd rather just stay and play at home.
With Betfair Casino, you can play anywhere in New Jersey. No long drives, no hassle.
You just can't beat the convenience.
I've downloaded the app. It's fun. It's quick. I can play anywhere in New Jersey.
Playing on Betfair Casino, I save on tolls, I save on time. It's great.
With over 400 casino games, you could be playing your favorite games in 3 simple steps. Step 1. Sign up at betfaircasino.com and get $10 free for joining. Step 2. Make your first deposit and we'll match it up to $2,500. Step 3. Join the thousands in New Jersey playing for real money online.
It doesn't matter, how much we're betting. It's just the excitement of it. The adrenaline starts to flow.
Join the fun today at betfaircasino.com. Try it free.
Do you want to bet the next race and don't have a TVG account? Get the TVG mobile app and sign up. It's fun, easy, and it's TVG. I'll show you how it works. When you bet the horse that wins, you win money too. With the TVG app, select your horse, bet type, and wager amount. Place your bet and watch the race live. Download the app and sign up now, or go to TVG.com. Join now and get a risk-free bet up to $200. TVG, your best bet.
Welcome back to More Ways to Win. And let's just throw this out there one more time. A reminder to check out the FanDuel Sportsbook at the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, New Jersey. It's a perfect spot to watch games, have some good food, and just enjoy the atmosphere. And, of course, place a bet. And if you go on game day, there are shuttles that run back and forth between MetLife Stadium and the FanDuel Sportsbook, so that would be a great time to check it out. I'm talking to you, Raiders fans, as they head to New York to play the Jets this week. All right, let's talk the Thursday game, though. Let's take another look at the Thursday night matchup between the Colts and the Texans. The Colts beat the Jags last week 33-13. They were down 7-0 and 33 straight points. They ran for 264 yards. Guess how many rushing yards they gave up, Mark? 29. I mean, the Jags just could not run the ball on them. But the Texans didn't fare very well last week either. Got crushed by Baltimore, got sacked 7 times. They lost 41-7. So, Mark, if Houston wants to make any kind of a run here late in the year, they need to protect Deshaun Watson better. That offensive line needs to correct a few things. 24th in the NFL in pass protection. So is this a team that you're confident enough in? Because Indy can rush. You know, they can rush the quarterback.
That's definitely going to be.
I see the Colts. I mean, I know you're leaning towards Houston, but what's going to happen if the Colts get 7 sacks?
No, that's not going to happen, because that's definitely going to be what Houston is addressing entire way leading up to this Thursday night kickoff, is the fact that they will have to have a much better effort against for the offensive line to have some success in this game. Houston is a really good 6-4 team. And know this, before the debacle against the Baltimore Ravens this past weekend.
That was a debacle.
The Texans had won 4 of their past 5 by an average margin of almost 2 touchdowns, 13.5 points. They get back into form here in this one. I think this is a blow-up game for DeAndre Hopkins in this one, where he goes for 150-plus yards in the air, and also an opportunity for a couple of touchdown catches. Great DFS play, as we heard earlier from Jim. I love Houston here in this spot in a national spotlight.
Well, Ed, the Colts are 6-0-1 against the spread in their last 7 trips to Houston. But they're not, I don't know, the Colts just seem to do what they're not supposed to. They were supposed to beat the Dolphins. They didn't. I thought the Jags would come in and have an easy time with them. They crushed the Jags. So which Colts team is going to show up? The one that beats Houston or the one that loses to Houston?
I'm going to pick the one that loses to Houston. Now, keep in mind, this is a Thursday night affair, and home teams tend to do a little bit better on Thursday nights in general. So that's number one. Number two, I am expecting a low-scoring game in this one, in part because Houston dealt with a lot of coverage sacks more than anything else. It's not necessarily that Baltimore's front in Sunday's game was absolutely dominant. It's that secondary now with Marcus Peters is just absolutely unbelievable. And so I think Deshaun Watson just naturally became indecisive and held on to the football too long. Pass defense success rate for Indianapolis is actually a little bit better overall for the season. So I'm probably also expecting a higher sack rate total. So I think it's a low-scoring game, but I still trust DeAndre Hopkins in a low-scoring affair. Maybe he will get 2 receiving touchdowns, something like that. But it's probably like a 21-14 kind of a ball game with Houston winning and covering.
Well, you can bet the game. You can also bet who is going to win the division right now at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Both these teams sit atop the AFC South, so the race is heating up. The Texans right now are favored to win the division at -135, while the Colts are next at +165. Then you're going to have the Titans and the Jags. Ed, let's start with you. Clearly, this is a huge game for tiebreaker purposes. If the Colts win, they will have won both games against the Texans. But if Texans win, then they're a game up. So is the -135 good enough value for you?
I think it is in this situation. The simplest way to look at who's going to win a particular division is which team has the best quarterback. And I think Deshaun Watson is the best among these 4. I think if Tennessee had addressed the quarterback concerns a little bit earlier in the year, then I'd be a lot more comfortable with them. I think Ryan Tannehill, with the weapons he has, can certainly make things interesting. So I'm not counting out the Titans. But at +650, that's just not enough value for me. I like Houston.
By the way, last week before Jacksonville lost to Indianapolis, they were +1,200. And with that loss, clearly in last now +3,500. Mark, who would you bet to win this division?
I'm with Ed here in this one. You have to take the Texans, and simply because what we also heard from Dr. Chow. You talk about health here, and it seems like the offense, especially for the Indianapolis Colts, is having trouble getting all of their stars back out on the field of play. You hear Will Fuller getting closer to coming back as a third receiver for Deshaun Watson to go to down in Houston. Minus 135 isn't a big number to pay. I'll take the Texans.
Well, there are great division races across the league, including one in the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys a game ahead of the Eagles for the division lead, but the Cowboys have a tougher road ahead of them. Mark, you're going to see the odds here. How do you see the NFC East race playing out? Because Philadelphia has the second easiest schedule left all year long in the entire NFL.
You certainly have to take that into account, Dave. I can tell you one thing. I'm not on the Giants and I'm not on the Redskins here in this situation because of the easier schedule down the stretch. And Dallas, as far as consistency, has not proven to me that they are going to pull away in this division. So I think you're smart here if you look at the Eagles at plus money. Plus 130 is a good number. And because of that strength of schedule, you expect them to find wins. I think they only face one more team that is above 500 down the stretch.
Ed, minus 190 on the Cowboys or plus 130 on the Eagles. Clearly, the Redskins and the Giants are a non-factor.
Absolutely right. And when you look at the Eagles' schedule the rest of the way, I don't believe they've faced the Giants yet. So that, to me, is important. The Eagles, I think, have a decent shot at winning this one, in large part because, I understand the Cowboys may have been inconsistent offensively, but I think it's more injuries than anything else why they've lost some of those games. And plus, too, when you look at just close game luck, the Cowboys just don't have it like they did last year when they went 7-1 after that Amari Cooper trade. And so I think the Cowboys may be due to lose a couple of close games. They still have to go to Philadelphia. That's always a tough place to play. So I think the Eagles are a pretty good value bet at plus 130.
Let's talk about the NFC North. Remember, the Vikings were getting crushed by the Broncos, but with that historic 20-point comeback win on Sunday, they now find themselves in the thick of the NFC North, trailing the Packers by just a half a game. The Vikings have a bye this week, while Green Bay will travel to San Francisco for a Sunday night matchup with the Niners. Ed, the Packers are the favorites to win this division at minus 210, but is there good value right now with the Vikings at plus 150?
I love the Minnesota Vikings in this situation. Kirk Cousins is number 2 in completion percentage over expected, combined with EPA per play. Aaron Rodgers, I don't believe, is in the top 10 in that metric right now. There's always been some extenuating circumstance as to why Aaron Rodgers has looked better than perhaps his actual offense has been able to perform. Yeah, I know he's been able to do things without Devontae Adams, but Aaron Rodgers does throw the ball away a good bit. His sack rate's a little bit higher than usual. Eventually, those things come back to haunt you. Whereas with Kirk Cousins, things continue to roll for him. So I like the Vikings here.
Well, let's finish with the AFC West. Last season, both the Chiefs and Chargers combined for just 8 losses, 12-4 apiece. This year, they've already racked up 11 losses between them. Meanwhile, the Raiders, on the other hand, have already surpassed last season's win total of 4. Mark, the FanDuel Sportsbook is going to give a heavy advantage to the Chiefs to win this division at a whopping minus 550, and they only have a half-game lead on the Raiders. Any chance the Raiders can pull this thing off?
Well, I think that Raiders number is going to get even bigger after they travel to take on the Jets on the East Coast this weekend. There's a reason why the Chiefs are the heavy favorite here in the AFC West, and that's because to start the season, I don't think anyone saw the Raiders even winning 3 or 4 games for the entire course of the season. So there's a reason why the Chiefs are the big favorite. Their offense is explosive. Pat Mahomes, if he can stay healthy, he's going to continue to put up great numbers. I would not buy into this minus 550 for Kansas City, but I think they're the team that obviously is going to win the division.
All right, let's head to the hardwood now. We've got 7 more NBA games on the schedule tonight. We're going to run our fast break offense now. Put 24 seconds on the clock for you guys. So, Mark and Ed, you have that much time to give me your pick and some very quick analysis. Ed, we'll start with you. Rockets at the Nuggets. The Nuggets are a 2.5-point favorite here. The total 223.5. Who are you taking in this one?
Rockets have figured out how to make James Harden and Russell Westbrook work well together, all while not sacrificing too much defense. Denver's high defensive efficiencies from a year ago, they're not as apparent now. And while the Nuggets have the best home court advantage in all of the NBA because of that altitude, I think Houston can cover here.
All right, Ed, don't go anywhere. We're running it right back with you. Talking about the Bucks and the Hawks. The Bucks are laying 11 points on the road. The total 231.
Be careful of the Atlanta Hawks here. Offensive rebounding percentage ranks 8th in the NBA, even better than the Milwaukee Bucks. And if you give Trae Young additional possessions, I do believe he will be able to score. Bucks also have had a much easier schedule. Hawks just endured a tough Los Angeles road swing. Spread for me is just way too big here. I'll take the APL.
0 shot clock violations so far. Good job, Mark. Now let's turn to you. Utah at Minnesota. The Timberwolves are getting 3 at home. Who are you taking in this one?
Well, the Timberwolves delivered Utah their first home loss of the season last week on Monday night. This is an opportunity for payback for the Utah Jazz. They are the better team both on the offensive side and the defensive side. Andrew Wiggins is questionable. He's, of course, the second scorer behind Karl Anthony Towns from Minnesota. I love the Jazz going into this spot, and in fact, so much I'll talk about it a little bit later in our show.
Mark, let's go.
7-0 at home. Pascal Siakam is having a breakout year. The Raptors continue to put up points in massive amounts. Fred VanVleet doing his thing. A chance they have Serge Ibaka back into the rotation as well. And Marc Gasol, now this is his first full season with Toronto, is doing an incredible job holding down the paint for them. I love Toronto in this spot.
Beat the buzzer by a second. Ed, back to you. Spurs at Wizards. San Antonio's giving 3.5 points on the road here. Who do you like?
I'm taking Washington as an outright winner here. Wizards have an extra day of rest. Spurs must continue a road trip where they were exhausted trying to contain Luka Doncic just down the road from me in Dallas. Wizards do rank 7th in effective field goal percentage, headlined by Bradley Beal and Moritz Wagner, who's playing sweet music down low. Inefficient offense with DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. I think they haunt San Antonio, and I like Washington.
All right, Mark, the Cavaliers head to Miami, where they are a 10-point underdog. No LeBron in this one for either team. Who's winning?
There's no question that Miami is winning this game. The question is do they cover this spread? Yes, they're 5-0 at home. They beat the Cavs last week by 11 points in Cleveland, and Jimmy Butler is simply just rolling. After missing the first 3 games of the season, he has found his way, plus the possibility of no Kevin Love, no Larry Nance Jr. for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Give me the heat and the points they're giving.
And Ed, we'll end with you. Pistons at the Bulls. The Bulls minus 1.5 with a total of 219.5. Who are you taking in this one?
Pistons haven't played a basketball game since Friday. Bulls lost to Milwaukee on Monday. Detroit is 5th in effective field goal percentage, but they turn the ball over about as much as anybody. Detroit also allows one of the higher effective field goal shooting percentages in basketball. Could be a day when Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, they do just enough to beat the spread.
All right, good stuff, guys. We have just a couple of minutes left, so this is the part of the show.
Jazz, and I'm just going to take them on the money line here in this situation heading to Minnesota. I mentioned the fact that the T-Wolves handed the Jazz their first home loss of the season last Monday night. They get the payback here. Donovan Mitchell was awful. 5 of 23 in that game on Monday night when they lost. The Spider gets back going, and it's a big win for Utah. Very low cost at minus 140. Take the money line, and you got a winner with Utah.
All right, Ed, your turn.
I'm going to go with a parlay here. First off, Warriors-Mavericks game will go over the total in part because Golden State plays the worst defense in all of basketball. I know it got a little bit better these last few games, but they haven't faced anybody like Luka Doncic. He have another 40-point outing, and Mavericks have not done well containing hot shooters, so Golden State may score some points as well. I think the
Portland State. Yeah, I'm going to go with Portland. They're 4-1 against the spread. Their last 5 trips to Portland State, 7-1 against the spread. Their last 8 road games. Portland Pilots +6 as one of the later games on the board tonight. And that's it, guys. Take that information and all of the picks we gave out during this show and use it to your advantage by placing a bet on the free FanDuel Sportsbook app. You can get free money just by signing up. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, sign up using the promo code MOREWAYS25, and you'll get a risk-free bet up to $500 in-site credit and an additional $25 free bet. So make sure, sign up for that FanDuel Sports account using the promo code MOREWAYS25 and take advantage of this free money. And that's a wrap for this edition of FanDuel's More Ways to Win. Thanks to Mark and Ed for joining us today. Remember, you can catch Ed's podcast called Hazard Play on iTunes and the Vocal app every Thursday. And check out our football preview show this coming Friday at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Thanks, and good luck with your bets today.